Well, I'm here today doing a little walking tour because another location bailed on me last second, but it's okay. We're going to see Grand Central Terminal, so let's go. This is it right here. We're going to walk inside. Grand Central Terminal opened in 1913, and it's called Terminal because trains actually terminate here, as opposed to a station where they pass through. Anyways, opened in 1913, there used to be an actual depot here. It was replaced when the trains were electrified in the early 1900s. It was built by that guy, Cornelius Vanderbilt. Cornelius Vanderbilt was one of the richest men in the world when he died, estimated at about like $170 billion in today's dollars. It's a lot more than Jeff Bezos. Jeff Bezos is a little bitch compared to Cornelius Vanderbilt. Up in the front, you saw the big clock. It's a Tiffany clock, as in Tiffany & Co., Louis Comfort Tiffany. Very fancy stained glass, as well as a big statue on top. That is transportation. It was actually made by a man named Jules Félix Couthon. He was a Frenchman who actually refused to come here and do it here himself. He modeled it in his studio in Paris in a smaller version and then had them build it bigger here. The reason he did it was because he said that he didn't want to come to the United States and have American architecture distress him. Joke's on him, he's dead now. So this is the busiest station in the world. Grand Central estimates about 700,000 people pass through here on a busy day. That's like the population of San Francisco. Might not be accurate, but that's what they say. We're going in through the 42nd Street exit and entrance. 42nd Street and Park Avenue. We're now inside the terminal. There's a guy out there yelling because he just got arrested. Go have it, dude. New York, welcome to New York. After you, please. Yeah. We're now walking through Vanderbilt Hall. Vanderbilt Hall, named after Cornelius Vanderbilt, who actually is a native New Yorker from Staten Island. He started making money when he was in his teens, ferrying people from Staten Island to Manhattan, which back then wasn't Manhattan, it was New York City. So this is all Vanderbilt Hall. You can rent this out. Now we're walking in the main concourse. Oh. This is probably the centerpiece of the whole area, the whole station, the whole terminal. You recognize this from tons of movies, right? The Friends with Benefits scene, that's the ridiculous flash mob scene. Madagascar, even though it's animated, I know that. Fisher King, the escalators over there from Carlito's Way. So this whole area is where most people pass through. So Grand Central is a gigantic station, gigantic terminal. 67 tracks, 44 platforms. It's big, 70 acres it comprises. You can see all the stuff that pertains to this area. You see the clock right there. That's the clock of Grand Central. It's a very common meeting point in New York. When you're like, oh, let's meet in Midtown. Oh, where do you want to meet? Let's meet at the clock, Grand Central. Well, that's it right there. Very beautiful. It's actually valued at like close to $5 million because of the white opal faces. All the time and all the clocks in Grand Central are set to the Naval Observatory in Bethesda, Maryland, the most accurate possible time you could have. And you have these giant 90-foot windows that are actually, you can see people walking through them. They're actually little pathways that connect the offices around Grand Central. And then you have the giant 120-foot ceilings that we're looking at. On top is a big art piece by a guy named Paul Hallou. Paul Hallou created this piece called Constellations. It's the constellations from between October and March. And they're supposed to be accurate, but it's actually, they're not. And they found out a couple months after they put them there, a guy who was an amateur astronomer who had used the trains here, looked up and he's like, that's incorrect. They're actually flipped. They're incorrect and reversed. When they brought it to the attention of the people who built the station, they go, well, that's because you're looking at it from God's point of view down. What idiots. Anyways, this is all Grand Central Terminal. You see over here, it says Campbell Apartment. Campbell Apartment's behind me. It was actually built as an apartment for a shareholder of New York Central Railroad. It's not an apartment anymore. They use it as like a cocktail lounge, all kinds of things. Really fancy. They actually had a shower and like a whole big desk and study area. Really pretty place, but it's not an apartment anymore. Now here's where you buy all the tickets to go, to travel. This is a commuter station, a commuter terminal, meaning that it's not interstate travel. That's all done through Penn Station, which is a huge dump, by the way. Don't go there. But it's all done through here. So you buy all the, tickets and things here. It used to be interstate here as well, and the local would be downstairs and the interstate was up here, but they switched it. So that's changed. Also, too, you have some cool stuff. Obviously, up at the top, you see this little dent up there in the ceiling. That dent up there. So in this area down here where we're standing, They used to show things up on screens. This is where people would gather for things. They watched John Glenn orbit the Earth. They watched JFK's funeral. So people would always be gathering here. It'd be a big place to advertise and do stuff like that. Well, in the 1950s, they stood a rocket ship up end to end over there to get people excited for the space race with Russia. And in doing so, they put in little secure, ropes and things, and they dented the ceiling, and it's still there. Isn't that crazy? Mess up our station. Anyways, we're going to go downstairs. I want to show you guys something really cool down here. Then we're going to keep moving. But you can see too, like the big chandeliers that are put there. They're just these two giant pineapple-looking things. That was actually the height of fashion in the early 1900s. Remember, electricity was still pretty new, so having this big old pineapple thing with 144 light bulbs was considered pretty cool. They're pretty simple now, though. So now we're going downstairs. This is like the food court. It used to be where you'd buy the local tickets, and they turned all this ticket waiting area into an actual food court.
She's like, yeah, I got this great barbecue plan for you.
So the station was actually designed, the engineer of the station was named William Wilgus. He came up with the idea of electrifying the trains and then stacking them to allow for more trains to come through, but also to allow the paving over of Park Avenue. Park Avenue used to just be tracks. There was no Park Avenue. It was all tracks because the locomotives had to let out their steam and all that stuff. So when they electrified it, allowed it to all be paved over. So he came up with the idea of air rights. When that was all paved over, he basically created new real estate. And because New York City was expanding at the time, it became some of the fanciest real estate in the country. So a lot of rich people moved in. It became very cool to live on Park Avenue. So all this here is the food court. This is pretty funny. You'll see over here, this is the Whispering Gallery. You can see all these people talking into the corners there. The Whispering Gallery is like this is all Guastavino tiling by a man named Rafael Guastavino. He was a Spanish immigrant. He came here and he designed these tiles for lots of city buildings in the early 1900s, including the Municipal Building, as well as Ellis Island. But if you stand over here and you talk into this corner, it carries the sound to the other side. And in fact, because of that, this is a really popular place for guys to propose to their girlfriends. I would propose to a girlfriend on the other side right now, but I don't have a girlfriend. Single. Yeah. Right. Anyways, this is all here. And you also have here the Oyster Bar. This has been here since the station opened. It's actually an oyster bar. I'm not a huge fan of oysters. But you also have, too, the ramps. So the designers of I told you who the engineer was, but he was replaced, actually, midway through because there was actually a train accident in 1907, I believe, and it killed a lot of people, so he had to resign. But the people who took over, Warren Wetmore was one of the architectural firms, as well as Reed and Stem. And one of the things that Whitney Warren came up with doing was making lots of ramps as opposed to stairs, which allowed for people to move more quickly, allowed for traffic to pass through more quickly. And that was very important because the stations back then all had stairs. So people have since copied that idea, but it was kind of Grand Central who innovated the ramps. How you doing, Phil? Your arms tired?
No. This sleeve feels amazing. It's like so smooth. Everything about it.
We got a new piece of equipment. I have that little gimbal. Yeah, very fancy. This is a really high powered operation we're running here. But yeah, we're walking now over towards the Lexington Ave side of Grand Central. I'll show you guys something cool over there. But Grand Central also has subways passing through it. The subway, by the way, has been around since 1904. And this has a bunch of lines passing through. Go here to the right. The subway's pretty awesome. The subway runs, it's over 720 miles of track. It's the only complex subway system in the world that runs 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. So take that, London. Yeah. It's pretty amazing, you think. This goes down, the actual terminal goes down about, they say, like 90 feet, like almost 10 stories, with the amount of tracks that are stacked on top of each other. That's a lot. It's an engineering marvel, if you will. And to put it into perspective, it just dwarfs other stations and other terminals in the country and in the world. So now we're walking out to Lexington. You'll see some cool stuff out here. I used to work around here. I used to actually be a lawyer, and my offices were around here. Isn't that embarrassing? Not making YouTube videos. That's okay. Check it out. So this here, right next to us, is the Chrysler Building. So this puts us out on Lexington, but the Chrysler Building is right here at 42nd and Lex. Really beautiful Art Deco building built by Walter Chrysler to house the headquarters of his Chrysler Corporation, up-and-coming car company that just took the world by storm. And he actually put little models on there that look like the hood ornaments from his cars. You have the eagles up there. Look at that, Phil. You're very good with this thing already. Look at you. All right, let's go. This is the Grand Central Market. This is where people go shopping before they go home on their train. Also pretty overpriced. You want a ball of cheese, Phil, for the road? So this puts us under, we're now walking over to the Gray Bar Passage, named after the Gray Bar building, which actually kind of surrounds Grand Central. It's where the offices to Rockefeller Center were located when they were building Rockefeller Center. But also just a giant building that was big for shipping. And this is a different passageway over to Lexington. This cool art piece there on the ceiling. Another thing too is you'll see clocks like there. This is interesting, you see a clock over there, it says Eastern Standard Time. Little known fact, time zones were a result of the train companies. In the late 1800s, they were having trouble with trains, synchronizing in different times and different places. So the United States started to create zones within the country. They eventually passed a law in the country making these zones official. And then because of these laws, they had a world conference where everyone was set to the same system. All because of trains. Look at that. Choo-choo. All right, anyways, let's go. Now we're going to walk over to the other side. We're going to get out to Vanderbilt, which is a little through street that cuts from 42nd on the west side of the station, the terminal. We're back through the main concourse. Very pretty, obviously. Big old American flag, America. We got some police here. There's some like military and stuff here. There's a lot of police presence here. Now you can see on the other side is, I'll show you this view here in a second. Check it out. You can see on the other side is the Apple store. That actual staircase was put in later. So the whole area, this whole building was renovated in like the 1990s. It took hundreds of millions of dollars. One of the things they did was they added that staircase. Another thing they did was cleaned the ceiling. In fact, they left a little black patch right above us right here to show you what it used to look like, how dirty it used to be. You can see it kind of there. I'll zoom. I'll get you some B-roll. But that is what the whole ceiling used to look like, and they cleaned the entire thing and retouched and everything, the art piece that was there on top, the Constellations. So that was all done in the 1990s. This is all here. You can see a good little view of Grand Central. Pretty nice. Main concourse. All right, let's keep moving. Follow me. And now we're outside. And we're going over to Vanderbilt, which is like a little throughway. You can see over here, this is the Vanderbilt Tower that's being built right now. People were pretty upset when they started building it because it's going to be so huge. It's 1,400 feet. It's going to be gigantic, and it's going to really kind of hide Grand Central. But what can you do? That's what they're doing here in New York now. Anyways, that being said, that was a nice little walk through Grand Central Terminal. Hope you enjoyed it. If you liked it, go ahead and please subscribe. I don't know what to tell you. Please subscribe. It'd be nice. And yeah. Or follow me on Instagram, I guess, TomDNYC. But you know what, more important, be present in life. Enjoy everything you do. Be there, connect. But follow me on Instagram too. All right, thanks.